Report to the ship as soon as possible. Well, bang, okay? It's a big, stupid jellyfish. Be ready. I wouldn't be surprised if these buttons summoned a Reaper. If you want a problem shot, ask a Turian. If you want a problem talked to death, ask an Asari. If you want a new problem, ask a Solarian. If you want a problem fixed, ask a human.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Codec, episode 12, our interview with Mark Meer. Again, welcome, Mark. How you doing?
Hey guys, thanks for having me back. I appreciate it, especially because I'm pretty sure I told all my Mass Effect stories last time.
Well, I know we did talk a lot about different aspects of Mass Effect, but as I told you, we've got a bunch of community and fan questions, so the community really wanted to have you back on the show, and so we asked, and we're very thankful that you came back. As always, we've got KorruptRonin with us.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Alex, a.k.a. KorruptRonin here. I had to mention that because everybody keeps saying I should do that for some reason. But anyways, it's a pleasure to be here. Really appreciate the chance to be here and talk to you again, Mark. Thank you for joining us once again. And yeah, it's going to be a great show today. We're going to try to focus this show on a lot of community questions. So for those of you that do have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, feel free to send them to me at KorruptRonin in the chat, or you can get them a much easier way for me to see them is at KorruptRonin on Twitter as well. So be sure to send those in. We'll try to get as many as we can in the time that we do have. So don't be afraid to talk to us.
Perfect. And not missing this one, we've got Yonya.
What's up, everybody? It's Yong here, and welcome to our interview with Mark Meer. Finally meeting you face-to-face is truly an honor, Commander Shepard, and just really excited to dive into some of these questions, and thank you for joining us.
Not at all, man, and glad to meet you as well.
Great.
All right, so before we get started, Mark, if you'll give me like a 10-minute heads up before you've got to go, because I'm not sure exactly when you got to go. Give me that 10-minute heads up so we can bring in our Mass Effect Odyssey people. And other than that, we'll be good to go. So to start off, tell us what have you been up to for the past year? It's been just about a year since we last spoke with you, and you've been pretty busy. So tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Well, I've been making my TV show up here in Canada, Tiny Plastic Men. We're on Super Channel here in Canada and on Hulu in the U.S. We actually, it was shortly after our interview last year that all three of our first seasons went up on Hulu. The fourth season should be up soon. We're currently in the process of editing that and doing post on it. I've also got my radio show, The Irrelevant Show. That's on CBC Radio. And if you go... Yeah, thanks. And if you go to cbc.ca/irrelevant show, you can download free podcasts of entire episodes, individual sketches, and that's available worldwide. And I think we're on iTunes as well. Awesome. And beyond that, I've been going to a lot of cons. Since I spoke to you, I've been to the big MCM London Comic Con, did Dragon Con again. Yeah, that was fun. Did Dragon Con again, as I usually do. Did the Montreal Comic Con last year, the Edmonton and Calgary cons.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and I'm going to be heading to Wales in about a week. Yeah, awesome. So that'll be the Wales Comic Con. Sticking around for the Improvathon, which is that 50-hour-long show that we do in London every year, where a bunch of the actors do it without sleeping, including me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I love that. And lots of improv and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of different shorts and things like that you've done over there. That's pretty cool. Before we get on, you want to tell us real quick about Tiny Plastic Men, what it's about?
Yeah.
Well, Tiny Plastic Men is a show about three guys who work as toy testers at a struggling toy company. They're those prototype testers. And so they've got their office in the basement where they basically just play and test all the toys. And there is, as I mentioned, a sitcom element to it, but we also have sketches. We cut away to sketches sometimes, and also animation by a guy named Riley Beach. I created the show with two friends of mine, Chris Craddock and Matt Alden, and we also play the three main characters. And yeah, my wife Belinda is also in the show. I think I mentioned her last time on the interview. She's been in a lot of games with me, and she also plays our boss, Alexandra Gottfried. And we've been lucky enough to welcome a fair number of guests on the show over the course of the seasons we've done. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Troma Films. Mr. Lloyd Kaufman, creator of The Toxic Avenger, he's been on our show playing himself a couple of times. We've had Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall. We also had, most recently, and actually this is the episode that I have to leave to do some ADR on, Colin Mockery, if you've watched Whose Line Is It Anyway?
No way.
That's awesome.
Oh.
That's crazy.
Very cool.
Yeah, he is the dean of Canadian improv comedy and the patron saint of improv. So
Yeah.
yeah,
He's awesome.
I love.
He's
Colin.
great to work with.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Okay.
he's a really nice guy. I've been lucky enough to get to do some live stage stuff with Colin,
Oh wow.
and just did a big show down in Atlanta with a company called Dad's Garage, with him and Fred Willard and a bunch of excellent guests. And we managed to get Colin as a guest on our show, and he essentially plays a sort of parody of Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on that, man. That must be awesome to, be in your 4th season and doing all this stuff with all these amazing people.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, we really enjoy doing that show. And
Awesome.
as I mentioned, we created it. We're the writers on it, and we're also the stars.
Awesome.
There you go. Can't ask for much more. But let's get rolling here. Ronin, you're up first, bud.
All right, so as you mentioned, I mean, it's quite clear that you get into a lot of short films and voice acting and things like that. But I was kind of curious about, and this is the main question that I have at the moment is, how do you go about approaching and what the differences are in the way you approach, whether you're acting, whether that be from, going from short films and TV to video games and things like that, from the Mass Effect series and onwards. Is there any differences in the way you think about how you should approach this and what those things are? And how they help you differentiate your roles in different mediums, so to speak.
Well, I mean, every branch of acting, it has a slightly different approach. Theater, film. I've done feature films. I just did a film with Joel State last year, as a matter of fact, called 40 Below and Falling.
Oh yeah.
And it was a 3D romantic comedy. It was shot in 3D. A lot of it takes place in the Canadian wilderness, and so they wanted to have the big panoramic views and that kind of thing. I'd say the biggest difference in voice acting is the range of roles that you're actually able to play.
Right.
You can essentially be almost anything as a voice actor when it comes
Like
to
a
stuff
Vorcha.
that's exactly like a Vorcha. On screen, however, you're somewhat limited by your look,
Right.
and so you will be a little more limited in the roles that you will play. Makeup and things like that, of course, can add a lot. I do a lot of prosthetic stuff actually in Tiny Plastic Men, and the show that we did before that, Caution May Contain Nuts, and that's always fun because I'm not going to say I'm a fan of spending hours and hours in the makeup chair, but yeah, it's always fun to do that. And more recently, on Tiny Plastic Men, we've been using a lot of silicone masks that are made by a company called CFX out of Louisiana.
Oh,
And,
okay.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I'm buddies with those guys, and we've used a fair number of their masks on the show. They're great because you can actually emote through them. They move with your face and your expressions, but you don't have to spend hours and hours in the makeup chair.
Right. Oh man, that's awesome.
Very cool. Young, you're up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how did your career as an actor or a voice actor begin? What events led you to becoming a voice actor/actor?
Well, I mean, I think I described it last time. In a general sense, becoming an actor is something I kind of fell into. When I was in university, my first year I was taking science. I had no intention or plans of a career in the performing arts. And it just sort of happened. I discovered improv, I discovered sketch, and, I left science behind. I dropped out.
So
stay in school, kids.
Yeah, I see.
Don't follow my example. It works out sometimes, but not always.
Yeah.
And specifically with voice acting, I got it the old-fashioned way. I went to a general audition back in the days when BioWare was still doing general auditions.
Yeah.
And as I said, I think I mentioned to the guys in the last interview I did, my first voice work was one line at the end of Baldur's Gate 2 in the final cutscene. And from that one line, it led to a lot of other work. BioWare.
Awesome. That's great.
Right.
Amazing.
All right, so my next question for you, we didn't really get to talk about this much last time, but I wanted to talk about the range of voices that you do, and I wanted to ask, how difficult is it for you to get in mindsets from voices like your D&D style stuff, like Dragon Age, Baldur's Gate, those kind of old-timey games, to something like Mass Effect? Does it take like a lot of concentration to talk a certain way like you do in those kind of older games that have that maybe like a speech dialect that's a little different? Like in Dragon Age, they use a lot of words that maybe we don't use nowadays, as opposed to where Mass Effect's more kind of streamlined in the everyday kind of speech.
Well, it's not like the Dragon Age games or the Baldur's Gate games necessarily involve like a a really heightened language. Like we're not speaking in iambic pentameter or anything like that. And in large measure, I think that they're doing a pretty straightforward read with, there might be terms and things like that. But the same could be said of a science fiction game, that you're just, throwing out terms like biotics or, the Mass Effect relay. And so you've got to imbue those with the same amount of meaning as you might imbue, say, lyrium or, spellbook or things like that. There have been a few games I've done where it's a more heightened language, but it's just like doing, say, a Shakespearean play. You just have to understand what your intent is as an actor and understand what you're trying to get across in the line, even if you don't necessarily follow that kind of thing. I did. I never had much trouble following Shakespeare and whatnot, just because I enjoyed that as a kid. And I know about archaic terms. I'm not the kind of guy who necessarily has to look up what is this word? What is a bodkin? What does this word mean?
Right.
I kind of knew a lot of that stuff already. Occasionally, when working on a Shakespearean production, you're going to have to what is he actually saying here? What is the intent of the line? But that's really the heart of it.
What about the accent that goes into something like in an older game? Usually they have weirder type of accents, almost like maybe English or when you think of like an old-timey game, they usually have they pronounce words different. Like for example, when you do a Shakespeare thing, you don't just read it like you would talking to me. You have certain words that have certain accents or ways to pronounce them. Do you ever run into any issues with that in games like Baldur's Gate or Dragon Age?
Usually not in those games. Again, they tend to, if they have the specific way they want a word pronounced, then your director will let you know about that.
Okay.
And
so they know above you how they want everything to sound already?
Exactly, yeah. And sometimes you find the accent, like Rasad, for example, in the Baldur's Gate games. He has an accent that, he's not from a specific part of the real world, but he's from a sort of a fantasy realm that sort of lends itself to, say, a more slightly Arabic accent or whatnot, but they don't specifically want an Arabic accent. In that case, you're sort of creating a new accent that sounds not necessarily like everyone else in the game, but again, isn't necessarily reflecting a specific region of the world. A good example might be the Quarians in Mass Effect.
Right.
They did, again, their accent was not specific, but Ash, I think, was the one who sort of created the way that Tali sounds. So when I played Quarians and things like that, I tried to follow her and just sort of have a similar accent and, listen to a lot of her dialogue. So how do Quarians pronounce words, that sort of thing. And not all Quarians had that accent, too. Like, I think Adam Baldwin played a Quarian who didn't have that accent at all. And that can be explained because the Quarians grow up in ships, so they're separated from each other. So their dialects through the generations might branch out for
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was really curious how you guys handle that kind of thing, especially in Dragon Age and Mass Effect, how they have all of these different species and they all have, like you said, real world kind of connections, but not necessarily specific to an actual place. So thanks for that answer. Ronan, you're up.
All right, so looking at your career in voice acting in video games, I was kind of curious about how the landscape of voice acting as a whole, or rather the scope of it, has changed. And my original question with this was going to be about how it's changed from, let's say, Baldur's Gate all the way up to Mass Effect. But there's been a significant change in voice acting since those times. So I was thinking more along the lines of how it's been and how it's changed from Mass Effect, through Dragon Age onwards and stuff like that. If there's any significant differences or any major changes in the scope of how voice acting is handled in video games, from your experience at least.
I think that there's been more of a shift towards realism. And I do remember when we initially started on Mass Effect, my director told me we kind of want this to be 24 in space. So they wanted sort of a more naturalistic TV style of acting.
Right.
And not necessarily as over-dramatic as voice acting had sometimes been in the past. Yeah. Not in all games, but sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I was kind of curious about that because it's like, Mass Effect, as you told us in the last interview, you had stacks of dialogue and script and stuff like that you had to go through. And considering how much a lot of games have taken inspiration from that and have done things similar to that, I was kind of curious if things have sort of shifted or changed since then, or if there's been significant changes. I think it's really cool to see how that's progressed from that era onward until today. So thank you for that.
No, no, no. The other thing is that, of course, games have just gotten a lot more in depth in terms of dialogue.
Yeah.
Because Mass Effect was, of course, the first game where you had a voiced protagonist.
Right.
And before, it was just blocks of text that you would read through as the player character. You know, this is what I'm going to say. So the fact that there's so much more dialogue in games now, I think has also led to a shift in that direction.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Young, go ahead.
Yep. Throughout the Mass Effect series, you, of course, interact with a lot of different characters, at least your character does. And you might have touched upon this in your previous interview, but I was wondering, of all the actors that have worked on this series, have you gotten the chance to interact with them during sessions to maybe discuss their relationship, the relationship between characters, or to run lines together, anything of the sort? Have you met up with anyone in particular, like Jennifer Hale, for example, or any of the Yvonne Strahovski, any of the actors that you might have that your character interacts with?
We did actually talk about this in the last interview. Just the fact is, most of the people that I've met from Mass Effect, like people that I didn't already know, most of them I've met after the fact at conventions.
Oh, okay.
Just the way that video games are recorded, you very seldom have the actors in the room together, or sometimes not even in the same city or country together.
Yeah.
So you're really relying on the recorded voices. If you are the second or third person to record in the scene, you've got the other people's performance in your headset, but you're not getting a chance to be in the same room with them.
Right.
I mean, we'd love to do it sort of animation style, like Simpsons style, and just have her be in the room doing it like a play. But the realities of scheduling and whatnot, that's just frankly impossible.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet up with, say, Jennifer Hale to discuss the character of Shepard? Because you two are technically playing the same character, just two different sexes. Do you guys maybe get together and say, what about Shepard makes Shepard, and kind of hash the character out, or did you just sort of go about it your own different ways?
Well, I didn't meet Jennifer until I believe 2010. Which was, it was before the third game came out, but we met at a convention down in Florida. We had, we of course were recording together, and it would all depend on who recorded the scene first, because we had to match each other's timings and whatnot. So sometimes on occasion, Jennifer would record a scene first. Sometimes I would record a scene first. And there would be some small dialogue changes that might come out. The writers were really good about letting us change sentences in order to say them more naturally, for example. But if the dialogue changed at all, BioWare had to track that and make sure that I said the same thing that Jennifer did, or Jennifer said the same thing that I did. And again, the timings had to be the same as well.
Yeah. And when you listen to, say, Jennifer's recording, do you try to match that? And is it like whoever comes first basically defines, I guess, the attitude or tone of that particular line, and then the other person has to go based off on who recorded that first? Is that how it kind of works for Shepard?
It was more in the terms of the timing. And in fact, our director here gave me specific notes on that. It's like, don't exactly mimic the intonation that Jennifer is doing, because men and women do speak differently, and they'll deliver lines differently. It was more about just, again, you can't take 90 seconds to say a line that Jennifer took 60 seconds to say.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. My next question for you, Mark, is we talked a little bit earlier about how you're doing shorts and improv and all of this stuff. Is there a reason why you're not more actively doing voice actor roles? It's just the thing that you're interested in doing right now? Because we know there's some projects that are kind of still on the line, like The Long Dark. We haven't heard much on that. And maybe a couple other titles that you might be involved in that we don't know about. But other than those, we haven't really seen you in a lot of games. We've seen you in a lot of movies and shorts and improv. Is that kind of what you're focusing on right now?
Well, yeah, improv has always really been my focus, and when voice roles come along, of course, I'm more than happy to take them. I live in Edmonton in Canada, so I'm not actively going out and auditioning for things like that. Usually, people come to me and say, "Hey, we'd like you to be in this." You did mention The Long Dark.
Yes.
There's actually been a recent announcement about that. They're sort of upgrading the story mode of that game. I'm
excited. That's why I brought it up. Hopefully, you've been in the booth and done something. Because we just talked to David Hayter the week before last.
Yeah.
And
David's in the game as well.
Right. He hadn't heard anything. It's the whole Canadian crew, really. The Canadian all-star voice actors right now.
We've
so
got...
that's cool.
We've got in that game myself, Jennifer Hale. We have David, of course, and Elias Defexis, who plays Adam Jensen.
Yes.
And so it's a very Canadian crew. They actually just recently, within the last couple of weeks, made a big announcement about story mode and the direction that they're taking it in. And it sounds really exciting, actually, because for fans of Mass Effect, you will get to play as both Jennifer and me. As you may know, you can play as male or female just in the sort of demo mode that they have on Steam in alpha right now. People have been really enjoying that. I'm told we have over 250,000 players just in the sort of survival sandbox mode. So when story mode comes out, that of course will, it's going to open up new vistas, of course. And the direction they're going is, from what it sounds like, a little more in the sort of Telltale vein, like, for example, the Game of Thrones game, where you've got shifting points of view. So essentially, it won't be you'll either play the entire game as me or Jennifer, but the story will sort of shift back and forth between which character you're following and controlling.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome.
And that seems to be the major development that's coming out of that. We haven't done our major recordings. I've obviously done some recording for the game because you can hear both Jennifer and me in the game as the survivor right now. I was going to say Soul Survivor, but that's Fallout 4. And which I have been playing a lot of late. We should talk about that in a sec.
Oh, yeah.
But so that's the direction that The Long Dark is going in, and people are really loving it already, just as the sandbox game that it is. And they of course keep increasing the size of the world constantly. Hinterland is very good about doing updates and things like that. There's bears in the game now, so you can be eaten by a bear and a wolf. And
I've been eaten by wolves so many times; it's annoying.
The wolves are the major challenge. Yeah, I have been told that like the bear, if you draw a bead on the bear, make sure you get it in one shot. Otherwise, you're dead.
Yeah, it's that game's very unforgiving, but it's fun. I like it. So
unforgiving by design. Yeah, player versus Canada, as they call it.
Exactly.
Versus Canada.
It's a very cool game. Ronan, go ahead.
All right, so actually, this is going to be my last question since you already answered my following question about the games you've been playing recently. Do you ever take a significant amount of time to actually dive into the lore of specific games that you enjoy playing? And if so, which ones have you done recently?
Well, as I mentioned, Fallout 4 has been...
Set it up.
Yeah, it's it really sort of ate my life shortly after release. I played it a lot over the Christmas holidays. It was just, my time spent playing that game was not measured in hours. It was measured in days.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I haven't played it in a while because I sort of, I'm waiting for all the DLC to come out. And I'm going to, once Far Harbor comes out, I haven't downloaded any of the DLC yet, but once all 3 of those are out, and the big story one with Far Harbor, then I'm going to dive back in and log several more days, I'm sure. But I got so into the settlement mode. With one of my characters especially. I just got so deep into that. I was doing things, and I play on console, not on PC, so I don't have all the shortcuts and cheats that people have had. The settlement building stuff. So I was doing things like near the end. I'd got all my settlements set up like I wanted, but I was doing things like going on raids to like the Shamrock Tap House and raider camps just to get things like lit cigarettes and things like that I could take back and put in the bar that I'd built in
That's
Sanctuary.
Awesome.
I was out of control. It was out of control. So there were times where I was just like, I wish I could just put in a console command and have some lit cigarettes show. But I am looking forward to playing around with the new, I think the Wasteland Workshop, which will, I think I understand that there are lit lanterns and things like that. That was something that
some Death Claws.
I'll catch some Death Claws.
Yeah. There's an
I was very
DLC as well.
Build all the robots. I'm looking forward to that. And the Mechanist is back, from what I understand. So
yes.
I was missing my Mechanist costume. I only wish they had an Antagonizer costume that I could wear as well.
Right.
But
I spent, maybe it's coming. Maybe coming. Who knows?
I mean, my character in that was very clearly a comic book geek because I had my house set up with like the bookshelves with all the comics set up. I didn't care so much about the other magazines, but I had to make sure I had every comic book.
Right.
I spent an inordinate amount of time walking around the wasteland dressed up as the Silver Shroud.
I have that.
Yeah, that was great. I have that too.
That's very cool. I got to tell you, these two guys got to interview Courtney Taylor and Brian Delaney, the voice actors for them, together in the same room.
That was so
and they were a riot.
I'm a friend of Courtney's. We of course worked together on the Mass Effect games, and we became friends. Going to cons together. I was just at Dragon Con with her last year. Cool. And so I did do a playthrough as her character too. I didn't do a lot of settlement building with her character. I kind of went straight for story, and that was my backing the Institute storyline.
Okay.
Okay.
If I may ask,
that's awesome. I'm glad you've been enjoying the game.
What kind of character?
I've been loving it.
What kind of character do you play as? Are you sort of the tanky kind of character, sneaky? What do you usually go for?
I tend to go for sniping. Lots of sniping. Lots of the VATS feats, things that let you do that sort of thing. So yeah, I do enjoy the sniping characters, especially because Fallout, the way it's set up, like you can sort of charge in, or if you want to, you can just like pick off every sentry and then go in and shoot everybody before they realize what's going on. If you have the high enough VATS, you can jump into a room and shoot everybody in the head before they've managed to draw their gun, stuff
awesome.
like that. That's awesome. Yeah. And I did, because of the settlement building, I did focus a lot on science and charisma too.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
So I think we're getting close to our 10-minute mark. I think we got like 5 minutes before we hit that, and that was Ronin's last big question. So Yong, why don't you just hammer out a couple questions you got, maybe your community questions, before we bring in the Mass Effect Odyssey guys?
Sure. So for my next question, just about Commander Shepard, what are some things that you had to keep in mind to play this character so you wouldn't maybe slip in and out of the character? What are things that sort of ground you to the character while you're recording, some things that maybe your voice director told you to keep in mind about the character? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, once we'd found the sort of baseline voice for Shepard, I would usually say a few lines as Commander Shepard before every recording session. And sometimes I would ask for playback, like, can we hear the last session, just so we can drop back into it. Make sure that there's not too much variation in the voice and whatnot.
Okay.
Some method voice acting.
But again, like, we work on this game for months and months, each game meant more and more time because there was more and more dialogue. So by the third game, it was pretty easy to drop the Commander Shepard.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's your Commander Shepard voice isn't too far off from your vocal range. It's like in that sort of range. So it doesn't. I mean, I know
almost your regular speaking voice.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, it was a little more. I put a little more pepper on it for, say, the Vorcha or the Bolus.
Right, I gotcha. Now, other than Commander Shepard, who is your favorite character on the Citadel? Or in the Mass Effect series? Is that Smoke?
That's Vape Smoke, actually.
Oh, gotcha. I was like, is something burning in your house?
No, that was Vape Smoke.
Yeah.
That was, you may have heard some clinking of dishes as well.
Okay.
Okay.
So the question was favorite character. Now, do you mean character that I portray?
Character just in general in the Mass Effect series that you really like.
I was always a big fan of Mordin. I really like Mordin. I think I mentioned before in the first interview, my Renegade in particular really got along well with the Krogan and would always back them no matter what, even if it wasn't necessarily the Renegade choice. It was just like, no man, sorry. Rex and Grant, they're my boys. Sorry, I gotta back them. Gotcha. And I did tend to favor the more inhuman characters like Legion and Garrus, of course. And so those when I went out, I tended to bring a couple of aliens with me or cybernetic life forms rather than the base humans.
Yeah, the aliens are just interesting. You gotta explore what these aliens are all about, because they're so.
Well,
fun.
I look at it this way: I hang out with humans all the time in real life. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's exactly.
Gotta change it up.
Yeah, it's a shame he couldn't be here today, Brandon. He was planning to be here, but apparently he got a commercial or something he had to shoot today. So
as I understand it, he booked a commercial today. So and I'm sorry that I had to sort of curtail my time as well because I ended up having to do some ADR for Tiny Plastic Men. So
it's fine.
That's all right. No worries.
Next question I got is, when you did the first Mass Effect, did you expect this game to become the phenomenon that it is right now? Did you expect this character to become so iconic and well-known? Or did you go in there sort of not knowing, is this game going to be something that will appeal to people? Is this going to be successful? What was your mentality then?
Well, I was pretty sure it was going to be a good game. BioWare makes good games, and quality often leads to success. So I thought it would be a successful game. I didn't quite realize how successful it would be, or how much the fans would really embrace Mass Effect. Right. I thought it was cool. It's like, hey, I'll get to say I was in a video game, and hey, by chance did you play this video game? I didn't know that it would become such a juggernaut. Yeah. And I'm certainly glad that it did.
Yeah, same. And a lot of people are looking. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add, because as you know, nothing stops the juggernaut.
No, nothing indeed.
That's it.
But yeah, no, a lot of people are now looking forward to Andromeda, and it's become such a phenomenal series, and can't wait to see how the universe expands with like an entire new galaxy. Basically, that's going to be crazy.
Right.
It's going to be something, man. I'll say this. I obviously cannot give you any details of Andromeda, but recently I've done a few tours of BioWare. There were some charity auctions where people had bid on a tour of BioWare with me along as their guest, and so I've got to see quite a bit of exciting stuff that I think the fans are going to love. It's going to be really good.
You got to do that little trailer recently too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You will not be disappointed.
Okay.
I think.
Straight from Shepard himself, we will not be disappointed.
Young, you gonna get on your community questions?
I got a few here. Alpha Hawk P asks, how often do you get to say manslayer quotes? Like, or rather, how many times do you get asked to say manslayer quotes like "We'll bang, okay" and whatnot at conventions and what have you?
We did talk about this in the last interview, and it's like, yeah, I'd say as much as stuff from the real game, to be honest. There are, when I'm signing autographs and things like that, very often people do want me to write "We'll bang, okay" on things like that, or say that for their voicemail or whatnot. So, and I'm happy to, because I really enjoy that series. It's very funny.
Right.
That's pretty hilarious. StitchFan08 asks, who's your favorite character that you can romance? So who's your who's your favorite romanceable character?
Well, as I mentioned before, my Renegade romanced Ashley and then Miranda, and my Paragon romanced Liara and then Tali. And all those ladies are great. My one big regret is, especially because I've become friends with Courtney, that I haven't yet done a playthrough where I romance Jack. When I eventually get around to doing, in my old age, when I do, I'm going to relive my glory years. Yes, then I will romance Jack. I will romance Jack.
Jack is a feisty one. I'll tell you that. Tell you that. Out of those four, do you have one that really sticks with you, or you just can't decide?
It's hard to pick. It's hard to say. I mean, Tali, of course, is great. I do tend to go towards aliens, so probably Liara or Tali.
Yeah, Mass Effect, they make some sexy aliens. That's how.
That's true. And I did also get a chance to meet Ali Hillis at the London convention last year, and she's fantastic. Yeah. She's really great. We never met face to face up to that point. We did.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, she's a great.
Awesome.
Malakadile from YouTube. What are your thoughts on? Oh, you kind of touched upon this, I guess, but like the Mass Effect 3 ending. Like, just your thoughts on that? And what do you think actually happened? Because it's like very ambiguous. And were there any other concepts for the ending that you are aware of? Because I'm sure they played around with it a lot. Like, what do we want for the ending? Do you know of any other concepts that they were going for before they chose on the particular one?
Well, they may have played around in the writer's room. One assumes that they did. But, by the time it got to us, no, it was pretty much decided on. I said before, I never had an issue with the ending. But, again, I was privy to information that maybe the average player might not have been or wanted more clarity on. And as I said before, I really think that the extended cut of the game and the Citadel DLC in particular really addressed all those issues, not only of clarity, but also of emotional closure with all the characters. Yeah. A friend of mine, Kathleen Rootsart, was a real champion of getting the big party into the Citadel DLC, like just a party where you have all the characters in the room interacting in a social setting, along with characters that you might not necessarily see interact with each other, like Grunt and Rex in the same room, that kind of thing. So that's what I think. I consider that the true ending of the game. It's like the extended cut with the Citadel DLC. And of the extended cut endings, my favorite is probably the one where Shepard essentially becomes Galactus, as I've said before. Right. And I know I got to voice that ending, but I also think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I for me personally, I guess I just wished there were so many choices throughout the Mass Effect series, and it all just like in the end came down to sort of this very just choose one of these and then that's the ending kind of thing. Instead of all these choices culminating to an ending, it was more of a after all these choices you come to one point, and then from one point you choose sort of 3 different paths, and that's the ending. I think that's what a lot of fans were a little disappointed with, but we definitely did appreciate sort of the extended ending and the extra work provided there, and definitely provided us with a bit more closure. But I don't know. It's an interesting thing that goes around the internet. It's still talked
nobody
about.
Just wanted it to end.
Lots of speculation. And this and that. But very cool indeed. Let's see. I think I have one more here. White Ace from YouTube. How was it working? How was it like working on the series at the beginning of the trilogy versus at the end of the trilogy?
Well, at the end of the trilogy, there was, of course, a lot more, I'd say genuine emotion. Like, we talked about this, some of the other voice actors, we've talked about it on panels at cons, where, we'd been on a journey with these characters that, some of us began working on it as early as 2005. Yeah, right. And then I think it would have been 2013 that the last of the DLC came out. So that's like an 8-year span. Wow, and working on Mass Effect 3, there were genuine moments of, kind of choking up in the booth and like realizing it's like, this is the final lines that you might get to do as Commander Shepard. Yeah. And the Citadel especially, because that was the last DLC that we did. And even people were asking about it, when we were recording the third one, and it's like, this must be quite emotional. But we all knew that there was DLC on the way, and it wasn't the last time that we'd be playing these characters. Okay. So with Citadel, it really hit home, I think.
Do you remember the last line you recorded? I don't know if that's like a thing that people keep track of, or.
I may be misremembering, but I think they actually did it that way. That the last line was, as Commander Shepard, was the best. When he talks about, how was the time, and that's very appropriate, I think.
It's poetic. That's
awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, that's it for all my questions.
We're pretty much out of time. We got about a few minutes left to have them come in here and ask.
I got 5.
Okay, perfect. Before we bring them in, can you want to send him the quotes for the show?
Yeah, sure.
So we can do that real quick. That way, when he's ready to go, he can just leave.
Yep.
We're going to send you a couple quotes to do as Commander Shepard, just like we did last time. We'll do those, let them ask a couple questions, and then, like I said, whenever you got to go, just give us the heads up, and we'll let you out of here.
You got it. They'll just be coming through in text at the bottom here?
Yeah.
Right. Cool. I can. Do you want me to do these lines now while we're waiting on those guys?
Yeah.
Sure. Report to the ship as soon as possible. Well, bang, okay? It's a big, stupid jellyfish. Be ready. I wouldn't be surprised if these buttons summoned a Reaper. I like this one. Yeah. Hold
on. Okay, hello?
Hello.
Hey, Ash.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Ash.
How's it going?
It's going good. He's doing a line for us here for the intros for the show. So give us just a second, and we'll get to you and this question. You can pull Rima in here, too, if you have her on.
No problem.
All right. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No problem. If you want a problem shot, ask a Turian. If you want a problem talk to death, ask... Oh, sorry, let me try that again. Yeah. If you want a problem shot, ask a Turian. If you want a problem talk to death, ask an Asari. If you want a new problem, ask a Solarian. If you want a problem fixed, ask a human.
Preach.
Awesome. Loved it.
That seems a bit racist. I don't know.
A little bit. I don't know.
It's fine.
It's a gray area.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. So we've got Ash and Rima from the Mass Effect Odyssey here. Big Mass Effect YouTube channel. They came on a couple weeks ago. We talked all about Mass Effect. Before you get out of here, they got a couple questions for you from their fans and maybe from themselves. So, Ash and Rima, this is Mark. Mark, the guys behind Mass Effect Odyssey.
Hey guys.
Hi Mark. Hey. Thanks for talking to us first of all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
We know your time is brief, so we will be very, very swift. But just so you know, we put this question to our community, and we're only going to ask a couple of questions ourselves. We had 80 questions lined up for you.
Cutting up a little bit.
So we're not asking all of them now, don't worry. So no, that's fine. But I'm just going to go far off right into them. So the first one was from one of our community guys called Matt Richards. And he asks, being a gamer and a fan of the series, does it suck knowing the story before playing the games and not seeing and experiencing things for the first time like the rest of us get to do?
Well, I've in previous interviews and at con panels, I've sort of likened the experience of me playing Mass Effect to being Dr. Manhattan. I essentially know everything that's coming and everything that's going to arrive. So it is a bit more like reviewing my work. And it's a little more fun for me to play, say, a Dragon Age game than just discover myself as a random villain or an innkeeper or whatnot and then move on from there. So yeah, it is a little odd playing a game where you know all the details of the plot.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. But Remy, do you want to ask your question as well?
Yeah, so we had one from one of our commenters, Tiberius66, and he wanted to know if you had a favorite scene or line in the trilogy.
Well, I did love, and I think I said before, the Captain Anderson death scene. The scene with Commander Shepard and Captain Anderson, that was a moving one for sure. And Keith David did fantastic work in that.
Oh, yeah.
I really also enjoyed, on a more personal level, I guess, I enjoyed the scene in the Citadel DLC where Commander Shepard finally met Blasto face to face. Because I play both those guys, and particularly because there was also a Vorcha in the scene, and I do the voices of all the Vorchas, so I was essentially all three people in that scene. And yeah, that was fun to do.
Awesome. I'm going to try and...
you want to squeeze one in? Yeah, no, you go in.
Yeah, I was going to squeeze another one in quickly.
Sure, I got time for one more.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. This was from 00 Meat Plays, and they asked, I'm going to try and shorten it down a little bit because it was a very long question. Basically, was there any favourite unused lines that never made it to the game?
You know, I'm trying to think. I mean, there wasn't anything that really stuck out. I'm sure there was some stuff that got cut, but there was so many lines of dialogue in the game that it would be hard to say. That one time where I said I should go. Yeah, it's pretty hard to remember any. There weren't any like major plot points or anything that I remember getting completely trimmed out. But I'm sure there might have been, because just the sheer amount of dialogue we recorded for those games. Yeah.
I'm going from 1 to 2 to 3, with just exponentially getting bigger and bigger as it went along. So I imagine
they did, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so I imagine just more and more dialogue means a lot of stuff gets to the cutting room floor, which is obviously something we'll never see. But yeah, so
that's a shame.
Actually, now that you mention it, there is something.
Okay.
Perhaps you remember there's a scene where Cortez, the shuttle pilot, it looks like he died. And so Commander Shepard can actually have a romantic relationship with Cortez. Mm-hmm. Right. Or Cortez might have just been a guy that you barely talked to. And so when the Cortez death scene happened, we did record, I'd say, 8 different versions of Shepard yelling Cortez, sometimes just Cortez, or sometimes with like real, grief at Cortez's death. However, for whatever reason, the only one that ever fires in the game, no matter what kind of relationship you have with Cortez, is the really overwrought, emotionally like Cortez. And so, that's I don't know whether that was a cut or a glitch or whatnot, but yeah, that I've always found amusing. Is no matter, even if Cortez was like, oh yeah, he's that guy who drives my shuttle. I haven't really talked to him. You end up screaming as if he is your lover being pursued.
Right. Well, there you go.
So I guess I regret that those somewhat less emotionally invested lines didn't make it into the game.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would love to see that in there, definitely. But I think that's pretty much it from us. I know it's short time, but I would say thank you very much for letting us come on.
Thank you so much.
To the guys at the Codec as well, and thank you to you, Mark, as well, for letting us come on.
Yeah,
and
no problem.
If you ever get a chance to come on us as well, because we've got like 70 odd more questions we can ask you. There's like just waiting in the wings. So
we're going to invite him back. We're going to invite Mark back with with Brandon later on this year. Hopefully, the schedule will allow it, and we can do some. Everybody can be there at one time. For that. Mark, if you're okay with that, I don't know how your schedule looks this year, but if we get Brandon later on this year, would you be interested in coming on with him?
Sure, man. Yeah, if the schedules line up, then yeah, I'm happy to chat.
Right.
Awesome. So we definitely look forward to that. Thank you to the guys over here at Mass Effect Odyssey. Thank you to my co-host, and thank you most of all to you, Mark, for being such a gracious guest and coming back on and stuff like that. Good luck with your recordings today, and everybody watching, go check out Mark's show, Tiny Plastic Men, and give it a thumbs up. Do you thumbs up on Hulu, or is it a like? Whatever it is on Hulu that rates the show up, give it a rate up if you like it. It's
and if you don't have Hulu, we do have some stuff up on our YouTube channel here and there. They don't let us put everything up, but a few episodes.
You want to plug real quick? Tell us about where we can see all your stuff.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, if you're in Canada, you can watch Tiny Plastic Men on Super Channel or on YouTube. If you're in the United States, you can watch us on Hulu or on YouTube. And as I said, it's more of a sampler of things that are on YouTube. But yeah, we're probably worth subscribing to Hulu for, huh? Yeah. All right.
It's youtube.com/
Tiny Plastic Men.
Tiny Plastic Men. Okay, great. There we go.
Perfect.
Awesome. So check that out.
Well,
people.
thanks, Mark.
Cool, man.
We
And I'll
appreciate it.
tell you what, I'll send you a link for one of some of the videos as well.
Cool. Sounds good.
Okay, yeah,
Great.
that'd be great.
Got it.
Awesome.
Thanks, man. Enjoy your day and drive safe to wherever you're going, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
All right, have a good one.
See ya.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our interview with Mark Meer. Thanks again to the crew over here at Mass Effect Odyssey for coming on and asking a few questions. Wish we had more time with Mark today, but like he said, he had to go into the studio to do this. I don't know what ADR is. And you want to tell me what that is? You know what ADR is?
Yeah, well,
I figured
I think it's-
anybody would know. Dog would know. Like,
I think it's overdubbing something, or I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's
But,
audio something recording or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe we should have asked him.
Yeah.
Probably.
Awkward. All right.
What exactly are you doing? So, before we get out of here, I figured since Mark was kind of short, we will talk a few minutes if you guys have some time from Mass Effect Odyssey about maybe some of the Andromeda news.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So, Yang and Ronin, this is Rima and Ash from the Mass Effect Odyssey channel. They were on here, I believe. You guys took that week off, and I had them come on, and we talked all about Mass Effect stuff. That's basically what their channel is. I compared them a lot to you, Yang. They're kind of like the Mass Effect analyzers and breakdowners of
Yeah,
Mass
I'm
Effect.
subscribed to the
Still-
YouTube channel, so I know.
Yeah,
Aw.
me too.
Thank you.
Very cool.
So,
Very cool.
I guess there was some recent leaks of gameplay footage. I guess we'll go around the board here since we have kind of a bigger cast than we normally do and see who's seen it and who's looked at it. Yang, have you seen and kind of dug
Yeah,
into
it's that
the
little tidbit with the jetpack and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
it.
okay. Ronan, you've seen it?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And obviously, you guys of Mass Effect Odyssey have seen it. So, starting with you guys, Ash and Rima, what were your thoughts and kind of expectations from that little bit of leaked footage, and how does that kind of alter, if at all, your perception of where Andromeda is in its current state?
Well, I think I saw it the day before Rima did, and my initial reaction was it was good from what it looked like. I think what definitely has to be remembered is that it's from almost 2 years ago.
Oh yeah,
Right.
it's old.
So really early in the development kind of thing, and showed that much. Was very interesting. Obviously, using leak because it's going to get, and
You break it up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Spoilers involved in terms of story or anything like
There
that.
is.
Oh, sorry.
That was a Reaper for a
yeah.
second there. What is it?
Yeah.
Although,
all
on the
doomed.
weekends.
Yeah, right.
I'm guessing you were saying that it was like early development, so it looks pretty good
Yeah.
for early
Right.
development. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked good for any development, and there was no spoilers involved or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
so it was interesting to say the least, and it makes me think that seeing that from 2 years ago and seeing how good it looked in portions
Yeah.
back then, it must look really good now. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
Does that change where you guys stand on the delays? Are you still thinking it's going to be officially delayed this year? or have you guys kind of?
Again, me and Reem were speaking about this probably a couple of weeks ago, where BioWare have officially said nothing on any of the leaks or rumors or
just that
delays or anything.
Statement, right?
Yeah, that's it. And then kind of everyone went big on the fact, it's delayed till the first quarter of 2017. And that, again, that's not been confirmed. But I wouldn't mind if it was delayed, because it gives them time to make the game as good as it can be. So, Reem, I don't know how you feel exactly on it.
Yeah, I think they haven't said it, but it's probably most likely going to be delayed till the start of 2017.
Yeah.
Especially now that we've kind of seen that.
Oh, she go away?
Did we lose her?
Oh. Reamer? I think her audio went.
Rima! Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun.
Well, while we figure out where Rima went, we'll throw another question in there. The gameplay has obviously got a lot of people talking about the kind of the combat mechanics of Andromeda, and a lot of people are kind of saying that it seems like it might be a little more combat focused than maybe what we're normally used to. We've seen the series from 1 go, kind of heavy in the RPG elements, to 2, which kind of streamlined the combat, reduced the RPG elements a little bit. 3 pretty much did away with a lot of RPG elements to the game.
Yeah,
other than
it was kind of like where they
refined
refined the combat, and that's like that part of the game as well. Yeah.
Right. So now we're at a stage where the combat should be refined enough, the RPG elements should be good enough to kind of combine them in one, but people are kind of worried based on the screenshots and the video that we saw that it just looks a little more kind of like a combat-orientated game. I wanted to know if you guys all share the same opinion, starting with you, Young. Do you share that same opinion? Or are you kind of confident where Andromeda will go with its balance?
I think now that they've had time to just sort of take a break from Mass Effect, I think they're reevaluating a lot of things, looking back at what made Mass Effect great, what it maybe might have stumbled on. And so I think with that time and the reflection that they might have done behind the scenes, I think this has the potential to be a really great Mass Effect game that'll balance out both elements. I think they have listened to the people, and I think they know at this point that people want a lot of that RPG that made like Mass Effect 1 so great, which a lot of people missed. I mean, Mass Effect 2 and 3 are also great games, but definitely a lot of people missed the deep RPG elements from 1. And so I think with the time they've had to reflect and to just really kind of take a break, take a breather, I think they'll balance things out in a way that'll make this maybe, hopefully, the best Mass Effect experience yet.
What about you?
Thinking, so I don't know.
Yeah.
What about you, Ronan? Where are you standing on that one?
In all honesty, I do have confidence in their ability to balance this out. Like, I recently, over the past, I want to say month or so, I did a Mass Effect marathon that I stopped partway through, and I started with 1, going all the way up to 3, and all the DLC and stuff like that. Yeah. I have to say, in my opinion, 1 is hard to go back to after having played the rest of the entries in the series, mostly because the combat is it's rough. It's rough in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is.
And the RPG mechanics of that, they're all there, but I have to admit some of those stats were kind of
useless, pointless.
They didn't really need to be there. They could have been streamlined in a better way. But I do hope that they do bring back the RPG aspect of it along with the refined combat, and I feel that they have the ability to do that now that they understand how to make a refined shooter mixed with RPG elements.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And Ash, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, I think everyone there, to be honest, I think the trailers they released, specifically the first one, that it seems to be very much an action element to that one. Whereas you look at the second one that was released for 7 Day, that was very much on the exploration side of things. So it definitely looks like there's going to be a very even balance in this game, very much 50-50. So I definitely agree that that's probably the way they're going to go. And I think having done the trilogy and having been through 3 massive games, and by the way, I completely agree on the controls for 1.
Yeah.
I've only done one complete playthrough on 1 because it's so hard for me to get through, just because of that. 2 and 3, not a problem at all. Yeah. I played that many times. Yeah. But 1, my God. But yeah, no, I think they've got more than enough ability, and I know there's been concern about writers leaving and stuff like that, but we don't have any major concerns about that. That's just natural part of development cycles when writing's done in particular portions. But I think it's going to be fine. I think they've got enough ability from what we've seen, from what little we've seen. They're in a studio that's been going for years and years and years, that there's enough confidence there that they're going to make a really, really good game.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I wasn't saying that they should just copy and paste 1 and then like make that Andromeda. Just saying that I think they had the right idea. The right idea. It's just it's a lot of it seemed very early stages, very sort of like they were still trying to get the hang of it. And then they kind of, I think they really got the hang of the combat aspect of things in 2. And then the RPG element was a little diminished. So if they can bring that RPG element back to sort of the level that combat is in for Mass Effects 2 and 3 and like balance that out in that way, I think it's going to be a winner.
Definitely. I think they should take a lot of cues from what they did with Dragon Age Inquisition. I like a lot of the way that Dragon Age has that faster paced combat than it did in the original, but it's not so crazy where it copies number 2's ridiculous all combat aspect. And then you have like your fort that you can upgrade and build, and kind of resource management, stuff like that would benefit a game like Andromeda so much more than it does in the Dragon Age series, because it's so much more massive in scale and scope. I just hope they take little cues from that. Like, it would be cool to have a base that you can kind of upgrade, or maybe upgrade your ship in ways like you did in number 2. I love the upgrading the ship in 2, but you didn't really get to see that reflective in any kind of gameplay or elements. It was just like, all right, you're
probe scanning.
Your
upgrading the ship was more of a sort of a check mark for the survival mission. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you upgraded this, then these people will survive or whatever.
They need to have that. Yeah. They need to have a survival mission in Andromeda. There has to be at some point. That was the pinnacle of everything great with that game, was who's going to make it back alive. That was like one of those first games where you really didn't know how to get everybody back alive until you beat it once, and you're like, oh, I probably should have done this or that or whatnot. And I really enjoyed that, sending your guys that you specialized in certain things and did their loyalty missions and things like that. It actually had a purpose for it, other than just the cool skin swap or whatnot. So just taking little points and cues from all of the great stuff that they did, I think will really benefit this game. So to close out on our chat here, what is a feature or like a gameplay mechanic that you guys want to see in Andromeda? Ronan, we'll start with you this time.
I don't know. In all honesty, like from what that early footage showed, I like the idea of having the jetpack and stuff like that in the game. I think that adds a different mechanic and a new element to the game in general. I would like to see them go a bit further on a lot of the abilities, like the idea of combining biotic powers and stuff like that and creating different effects because of that they did in 3. I thought was really cool. I would like to see them expand on that a bit more, and perhaps the exploration aspect, like we talked about. I would like to see that. I would like to see a lot more of that, but please don't do the Mako stuff. Just I can't. I love
the Mako. It's so amazing flipping on a rock that just is randomly protruding from the ground. I can't believe you didn't love that. I love that. I thought that was awesome. I think this is the first time I've ever heard Ronan ask for a jetpack in a game. So
that's true. That's true.
We've got to make that a mark as well. So, okay. All right. Yong, what about you? What was something you would like to see in Mass Effect Andromeda, maybe from another game or even your own original idea?
Yeah. For me, I guess I'd like the areas to be a little more open. It feels like Mass Effect, like there's a lot of exploration you can do, but a lot of the levels are very just sort of hallway-y in a lot of respects. I mean, they try to hide it, but it definitely feels very just point A to point B. Maybe if they have like a couple different paths to getting to your target objective. Okay. Like Uncharted 4, it's now kind of like more open. It's still linear. It's just you have more ways to getting to your destination, like that kind of thing.
Wider
yeah,
path.
Exactly. To really sell that these are like kind of open worlds that although you do have to still take kind of a linear path to. So just balance that out a bit so that it's not so linear. Okay. So just a little more openness to the levels would be really nice for me. But also I like what Ronin said, more experimentation with abilities and how you can mix and match them would be really cool. Because they got like a good base. Like some of the abilities are really cool, and like in Mass Effects 2 and 3 in particular, the powers are awesome when you see the guy when you like angle the what's the power called? I forget. You know, the little
biotic,
ball.
The biotic charge?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a ball of energy, and it just swoops around, and it hits the guy at the right angle. He just goes flying in that direction.
Dark matter sphere thing?
I forget what it's called. There's an actual name for the ability. I forget the specific name, but I think a lot of people know.
I'm going through names in my head right now trying to figure
it out.
Like
you lock onto
a
target, and then you like kind of shoot to the right, and then it swings to the left, and then it just takes him out in that direction. Like stuff like that is just really awesome.
Okay. Okay, so more the physical abilities of the biotics to actually I think that's cool.
Yeah,
I remember doing that scene with Jacob where you shoot the biotic ability over the cover that the guy's behind. Like that kind of stuff was pretty cool. So Ash, what about you, man?
Well, for me, I've always been a heavily story-based person, but I also want them to mix elements of having a great story with the open world part of it, like Yong was saying. I love the Mass Effect series, but I couldn't agree more with the fact that while the areas you can go in are beautiful to look at, and there's so many like planetscapes that you look at and I can just get lost in for like 20 minutes at a time. You're just stuck to that path, and you can only go from A to B essentially. And as beautiful as A to B is, I want to go to A to B to C to D to E.
Right.
So it's a mix of keeping that kind of compelling storytelling that they do all the time, but having that aspect of having an open world mixed with it, and like a bigger open world with it as well. So you can really get to grips with that exploration part of it, which they really seem to be selling. And also, I really want the jetpack as well. As a Halo player as well, jetpacks are a dime a dozen in that game. But if they're good enough in Mass Effect Andromeda, then I'm quite happy for the jetpacks to be in there as well. But it's very much the open world mixed in with a really good story as well. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I said this in the last podcast that we did. I think what I want from the game is more companions. I hated in Mass Effect 3 the downscale and the amount of companions that you had in total, where as in 2 you could have, I think it was like 8 or 9
there's quite
with
a few.
Kasumi and the dude with no eye. I always forget his name. Zaid.
Dude with no eye. I have to call him that from now on.
I think it's Fetty Wap. He's Big Boss. But yeah, I think you went from having that big crew with all of these companions down to just a couple. I think in the base game, if you don't have any of the expansions or like the DLCs for Mass Effect 3, there's like 6 or like 5. And they're people that you've pretty much already had. I mean, you get James, Liara, Edie, and Garrus, and like maybe like what's James? Did I say James already? I don't know, but it's not that many. I would have liked to see more characters, especially since most of them made an appearance in the storyline of the game. If you had like carried over your saves or whatever, you could see Kasumi, you could see Zaid, you could see all Thane, all the different ones, but you just couldn't have them in your squad. I hated that. I really want a good roster of squad mates, because that's what this game kind of lends itself to, is developing relationships with characters and stuff. Like in Dragon Age, the more you bring a character with you, the more dialogue that they exchange and things that you can find out about them. I love that aspect, instead of just having a group of guys that I just bring with me to kill people. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm hoping for, is just kind of a more diverse and better grounded crew system. Not that any of the ones that we had in the past were bad characters. I just didn't like the system of how many you could have. So that's what I'm thinking.
Be interesting to see if you can bring more along. Like I know, you know, usually you can bring on 2 and then yourself.
Yep.
I don't know if they could find a way to make it 3. That'd be really interesting. Or that might be overbloated though. I don't know how to say for sure.
Would be cool.
But
as long as it's designed around that mechanic, I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
Yeah. So maybe add one more.
The multiplayer's got 4 players, so I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do that. But I think either way, whether it's 2 companions or 3 companions, as long as there's better interaction and more variety in them, I think I will be okay with that. But I will be disappointed if we only get 3 or 4, just like we had in Mass Effect 3. But that's going to end the show today. Ash, before we let you go, is there anything you want to say to the people watching or your channel? Any news updates, anything like that from you?
Yeah, no, we're actually going to be on a break next week. We're leaving for Japan on Monday.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and I just moved house today as well, so I'm moving out of boxes at the moment. But no, yeah, it's just to obviously thank them all for submitting questions just to ask Mark. Obviously, we didn't get the chance to ask all of them because there are far too many. But
we are bringing you back. We're going to bring you back.
There'll be an opportunity. We'll keep them by.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you want to come check out the channel, it's youtube.com/Mass Effect Odyssey, and come check out our videos there as well. But also, thank you to you guys for letting us come on and chat with you guys and chat with Mark. So.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm sorry that Reba couldn't be here for the last bit. Apparently, her laptop crashed. So.
Oh,
it's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Everybody's got technical problems every once in a while. It's no big deal. But like I said, I don't know if an apologies. I don't want to say I'm sorry, but I am sorry that we didn't have as much time with Mark. It's kind of out of my control. But these voice actors, they're busy people. But like I said, he did agree to come back with Brandon, so we will get an opportunity to ask your questions. I know a lot of our fans kind of get upset when we don't get to ask their questions, but we will.
Yeah. So that last interview we had with David.
Yeah, I know. I just that's what I'm saying. I feel like I just need to let everybody know we're gonna ask your question. If you submitted it, it's not for no reason. We will ask it eventually. All of the voice actors that come on our show love us, and I think all of them except for maybe like Troy Baker, who apparently, I don't know, doesn't want to talk to us anymore. but other than that, everybody loves us, and they all want to come back.
Troy Baker doesn't want to talk to us anymore?
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised at how many jokes we made about that interview that we had.
Look, he tweeted me when I said something about my review for whatever that game that he was in that I didn't like. Yeah, The Last of Us, and asked me why I didn't like it. And I told him, I was like, it doesn't have anything to do with you. I liked your performance. I just didn't like the gameplay mechanics, and he just hasn't ever responded to me since then. So I don't know.
I made fun of his games. Be ashamed of yourself.
I tweeted him a couple of times telling him how much I enjoyed him, and there's a series called Brothers in Arms. I don't know if you guys have ever played it, but it's an amazing. I'm doing a YouTube video called I don't want to tell you the name of it, but it's about Ubisoft and how they used to make great stories and now they can't make any stories. And Troy Baker's performance in Brothers in Arms was amazing, and I tweeted at him and he just never said anything. I don't know if he's just busy or what, but
he could be busy.
I don't know. He could be busy. He's in all the games and whatnot. So, but most of our voice actors love us, and they all agreeingly come back constantly. So, we will have Brandon and Mark on the show. I make you that promise. So, again, thanks, Ash, and we'll talk to you later, buddy.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yep. Take care.